It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid! No fear here on Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, here in Phoenix, Arizona, from the beautiful studios of Freedoms with an S, freedomsphoenix.com here at the farm. Now, we're trying to make sure we can survive this thing. Now, let me tell you what we got. We got Paul Loeb. Now, we're going to be talking about British austerity and the riots and so on. Now, Paul, he's author of Soul of a Citizen, Living with Conviction in Challenging Times, and The Impossible Will Take a Little While, Hope in a Time of Fear. Now, Paul is a, how would you describe yourself, Paul? I mean, you go ahead and you do a lot of interviews on all the networks. You're talking about a lot of things. You're born in California in '52. You attended Stanford University in New York's
that was a long time ago. This is a long time ago.
Well,
making me feel old.
Well, the point that I wanted to make is, the New School for Social Research, and you protest against the Vietnam War, and you've done a lot of things. So the bottom line is, I would think that a lot of people would consider you to be from the left for causes of empowering the individual in their opposition to the state and the man, because you want them to do something different as opposed to just leaving you alone. I want to have the force of government do something I want to do, and I just want to know what that is. What is it you want them to do?
I think that's a good summation. So basically, to me, government ought to do the things that make sense, and they should not do the things that don't make sense. So,
to who?
I mean, for example, I spoke at it's called Hemp Fest, and it's a little bit of a hippie gathering, but they gathered 200,000, or maybe it's 300,000. It was 200,000 last year, people in Seattle to basically legalize marijuana. And what's interesting is...
Had several friends there.
Well, I probably talked to them, because I was going to say, I ended up in a conversation with some people from Reason Magazine, which is a libertarian magazine, and, there's things, and we can go into them on the show, that I just don't agree with them on, and then there's things that I do, and we had a really great discussion about the things that we did, and I signed a copy of my book and said, hey, you know what? We got at least as much in common as we've got dividing us, so let's keep the dialogue going. So to me, what's interesting is there's areas where people, I mean, I looked at your website and your show, I don't know if it's fair to characterize your show as sort of pretty much libertarian-leaning. At least that's what it looked like to me.
Yep.
And so, I looked at, thought, well, okay, here's a list of things that libertarians and I completely agree on, and here's some things we don't, and we're just going to have to keep talking about that.
Well, no, let's go ahead and let's get back to it. I mean, we got plenty of time.
Sure, yeah.
We're going to get...
So, when I looked at it, I thought, I mean, these are the conversations that I had with the people from Reason, and I said, we both want to end those wars. We both, neither of us think... Why? I think because, I mean, to me, I'm not a pacifist. I never have been. And my son's about to join the Marines, so I'll have a personal stake in come October. But to me, I say, okay, when do you need to go to war? Only under the absolute, if you tried everything else. And there's
everything
no other,
else to what? I mean, let me go ahead and preface this so
World
we can
War
get
II, right. World War II, I would say, most, there may be some people who would say, I wouldn't go to war in World War II, but I sure would. To me, there's just, that meets the test. But, Iraq didn't meet the test.
What?
And,
whoa! See, you're glazing, Paul. You're glazing over a bunch of stuff. Man.
Yeah.
We got plenty of time. Let's get Let's get back to it. The one thing that you'll find from me as a talk show host is that I'll do more than anybody else. I always ask the one question nobody ever asks.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Why? You'll say, okay, well, I would have gone to World War II, but not Vietnam War. Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
I would agree with, reason on certain things and not on the other things. Why?
Yeah, the why questions are great.
Well, let's just pick one. You're glazing over a bunch of these, and I need to understand your philosophy before we even get to British austerity, because this is coming to U.S. I mean, it's coming.
Oh,
okay?
It's here. I mean, that's, they are basically, the Congress said we're going to cut everything, and it ripples down to the states, and it ripples down to the cities. And I don't know about your city, but I live in a relatively prosperous city, Seattle, and we've got, libraries closing, we've got teachers being laid off, we've got police and firefighters being cut back, we've got stuff that, to me, pretty damn important and pretty beneficial.
Right, here comes one of my whys.
Yeah.
To me, these things, libraries, police, fire, blah, blah, important to you, and here comes, you ready? Why?
Well, I guess, police, I think, is most folks agree on police. That is, you can try and do it all on your own, and if somebody steals something, you can try and investigate or hire, a private detective if you have money, but...
You better, police don't.
Well, I'd rather... Our police are fairly... they're not perfect, but they're fairly decent, and, I remember when my car got ripped off, they got it back. I like that, I thought that was a good thing. And I think most people would think that's a good thing. So
when our car, we're number one in auto theft here in
really?
Arizona.
Yeah.
So when they steal your car, you know what they do? They take a police report over the phone, turn it into the insurance company. I'm going, hey man, the guy's left fingerprints everywhere. Nah, don't care. Well, I smelled marijuana. Here comes the helicopters. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's all incentive and who can make money from a federal grant, de la, whatever the heck's going on. So if you bring it down to why I'm looking at this and you say, okay, we support police and to what point?
Bring it back, say, to the drug war, which, where I was talking with your friends from, if you know them, they're good folks from Reason.
Well, tell me about the conversation. Because I can imagine what they would be saying and your responses back and forth, but share it with us.
Well, it was fun. We were teasing each other a little bit, and I said since I was giving them a book that cost me money, I said, I'm hoping this will make you more effective on stopping the drug war and stopping the other wars, but on healthcare we ought to be talking about that because I'm not sure we agree. So I teased that. I even wrote that on in my inscription, and they laughed. And basically, I think what we were talking about is if you have a choice. Let's take the police because this comes sailing. In Seattle, this is this hemp fest, and wide range of folks speaking. There are say 250,000 people. That's my guess. But, based on the previous numbers. And there were 6 cops on bicycles stationed is in a big park that ran along the waterfront. 6 parks that ran on bicycles, basically at the front of it, on call with radios, and the event policed itself. That was pretty cool. And no one got hurt. No one got injured. Maybe somebody stole something minor, but nothing life-threatening. So you look at that and you think, pretty peaceful gathering, and this doesn't seem to be a good use of police resources to be busting people for smoking this, substance that seems to make them pretty pliable. So, or to put it differently, the former chief of police, Norm Stamper, said he asked his, friends of his who were police officers, and he says, okay, when was the last time you had to restrain somebody who was under influence of marijuana? And he said, I don't mean marijuana and cocaine or alcohol or Drano or, just straight marijuana. And they'd think and they'd say, God, I don't know. I'm not really honestly sure that I ever have. And he'd say, well, how about alcohol? He'd say, last week, 24 hours ago, 2 hours ago. All of which I spent 10 years as a bartender, so all of which confirms my experience. So you look at that and you say, all right, here's something, massive amounts of money get spent on the drug war every year. And, it does get complicated. I was at it was a conference on sort of, I don't know what it was, sort of drug prevention. They asked me to speak. And I was talking about harm reduction and, privacy. And somebody says, well, how do you do harm reduction for meth? And, I didn't have a good answer for him because, there's some drugs that are pretty damn dangerous and addictive, and people do really dangerous stuff when they do it. But for marijuana, it's a no-brainer.
Because we approach it from a totally different thing. When you ask us why, we go, because it's my freaking body.
Right.
And when I mess with yours or your rights or your property, then we can get government involved. Until then, it's none ya, as in none of your business. We'll be right back here on
No, I
Declare
think
Your
we wanted
Independence
to
with me, Ernest Hancock, and our new best friend, Paul Loeb. We're going to talk to him about everything.